Okay. What are your thoughts on the decriminalization of drugs and the outcome on society?
Well, the war on drugs wasn't very effective. There were a lot of reasons for that. One of the unintended outcomes, remember I said earlier that your stupid intervention isn't going to do what you think it is. It's going to do a bunch of things you don't predict. 20 years ago, there was like 5 substances that you could use to really screw up your life. And now there's like 300. And the reason there's 300 is because we criminalized those 5, and that just incentivized chemists, many of them Chinese, to produce variants of those chemicals that weren't technically illegal, that were often even more addictive. And so now we have, instead of heroin, now we have fentanyl. And instead of amphetamine, we have methamphetamine. And I suspect that in the not too distant future, we'll have chemicals that'll make fentanyl look like pablum. And so no one expected that. It's like, we'll make 5 things illegal, now we'll have 300 things. It doesn't look like that's good policy. Now, the opposite of that is just let people do what the hell they want, and then you get San Francisco. And that doesn't look good. That doesn't look good either. And lots of Canada could look like San Francisco in the next 10 years if we want that. And so Portugal decriminalized all drugs, but they didn't do it the San Francisco way. You don't get to make a public nuisance of yourself on your favorite chemical. And so if you're unable to regulate your own behavior, then you get shunted off to treatment. Now, that's a bit dangerous, right? Because it isn't obvious you want to put mandatory treatment in the hands of the state. But we already kind of do that with prison, because prison is a form of mandatory treatment for misbehavior. So it doesn't look like blanket prohibition on drug use is useful. It didn't work with prohibition. It certainly didn't work with marijuana. It didn't really work with cocaine. It caused a huge explosion in the prison population, and then it produced this multiplication of addictive chemicals. The approach in Portugal seemed to work quite well, which is like somewhat liberal attitude towards the availability of drugs at least with regards to their criminal punishment, but an insistence on public order and on treatment in the cases where people are no longer able to regulate themselves because of their drug use. And so those policies already exist, and there are countries that have implemented them. And if the do-gooders in Canada who want to be, welcoming and compassionate to the addicted had the courage of their convictions, they'd put some stick in along with the carrot. And then, maybe we could guide ourselves with some degree of intelligence.